Dear aspirants, welcome to our channel, Trusted Brains IAS Strategist. Today, we are going to discuss current affairs, international relations, and the topic is Quad Summit and its significance. So, what is Quad? Quad is a strategic dialogue and an informal grouping of India, Australia, USA, and Japan, which were started in 2007. And the purpose behind the formation of Quad is to curb the growing power of China, both militarily and economically. So, Quad's basic motive is to control the domination of China. Why these four major powers came together and started an alliance? Here, we have to understand the gradual evolution of Quad. Quad started as an informal dialogue between the four countries with the initiative taken by the then Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and with the support of India, USA, and Australia. Gradually, started cooperating in different fields like defense, infrastructure, technology, and innovation. Now, Quad also started conducting joint military exercises in the name of Operation Malabar from 2010 onwards. Now, when we see the significance of Quad summits, the 2017 Asian Summit held at Manila is a landmark event because in 2017 summit of ASEAN, the Quad leaders openly announced a joint statement to curb the domination of China in Indo-Pacific region, particularly South China Sea. So, why this China factor became important? Because China is asserting its dominance and also building up of military presence and naval presence in South China Sea, which is causing harm and damage to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the neighboring countries in the region. So here we have to understand the significance of Indo-Pacific region, why it is important. Indo-Pacific region is the confluence of Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and it is strategically and geopolitically important because the Indo-Pacific region constitutes 40% of the world's major shipping route and also trade route. And Indo-Pacific region is rich in natural resources like minerals and also crude oil and natural gas reserves. So, to gain control and to gain access over the rich natural resources in the region, China is building up its military strength in the South China Sea and Indo Pacific region. So, here, so not only China, almost all the major powers are involved in gaining control and having access over the natural resources in the region. Now, all the major countries and also Quad are interested in maintaining a stable, peaceful, and secure atmosphere in the Indo Pacific region because when the region is stable and without any disturbances like military disturbances, it will be easier for them to carry out trade. So, economically, the region is significant. So, to promote trade and economic interests, the Quad countries came together and formed an alliance. So, in this process, China is asserting its domination over the South China Sea. So, when China is asserting its domination, the interest of the neighboring countries in Asian region and also USA, and even European Union also is getting affected. So, European Union countries also announced a joint strategy in the Indo-Pacific called as Australia, UK, USA Security Partnership in the Indo-Pacific region. And Quad leaders also announced their support for the European Union's Indo-Pacific strategy. So, this is the importance of the Indo-Pacific region. Now, the Quad countries also conducted a virtual summit in March 2021. And this event was significant because they have announced a major objectives of the Quad. So, what are the major objectives of the Quad that was announced in this summit? And the first and foremost priority is maritime security. Secondly, the Quad leaders announced to control the growing pollution of due to climate change. So climate change also assumed significance. Not only climate change, and to combat terrorism in all its forms and manifestation, and also to cooperate on the issues like terrorism, especially Afghanistan issue. So these are the four major objectives of the Quad that was given a practical shape in the virtual summit of Quad held in March 2021. Now, the recent summit held in September 2021 is important because it was the first in physical summit. That means all the four major leaders met at Washington and also declared their objective. They have announced a joint statement on five major issues. So, when we discuss these major issues, the first and foremost issue is Afghanistan issue. They have announced a joint statement on Afghanistan. Why it is important? Recently, the Taliban have taken over the administration there and formed an interim government, and the diplomatic relations between Taliban and other countries is completely cut off. So they are not maintaining diplomatic relations. And why it is important? Because the Taliban government is providing shelter to the terrorists who are operating from its territory. The Afghanistan government is, especially Taliban's, are providing logistic, military, and financial support to the terrorists operating in the Indo-Afghanistan border. And even Pakistan is also supporting terrorism. So the cross-border terrorism is increasing, which is causing problem, which is having adverse impact on the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the neighboring countries in the region, and also major powers like USA, Russia, and European Union countries. So, the Quad leaders announced that they are going to cooperate and coordinate their diplomatic, economic, and human rights policies towards Afghanistan, and they are going to cooperate on building infrastructure and reconstruction efforts also in Afghanistan in the context of the regime change. So, terrorism in all its forms and manifestations should be curbed or controlled from Afghanistan territory. So, this is the major issue. And the second most important aspect is on climate change. So, the Quad leaders announced that they are going to update or intend to formulate nationally defined contributions NDCs announced recently and in the ongoing COP26 summit to be held at Glasgow. So, the nationally defined contributions taking into parameters of national circumstances, they are going to be announced by the different member countries, and Quad also announced its support for that. So not only NDCs but also on the net zero emissions also they have openly declared a joint statement that they are going to achieve the target of net zero emissions by 2050. Even India also recently in its 5-point action plan on climate change stated that it is going to achieve the net zero emissions by 2050. And the third important point here is our joint statement announced is on COVID-19 pandemic. The Quad leaders announced that they are going to boost up the vaccine production through vaccine diplomacy, as almost all the countries are affected by COVID-19 pandemic and there is scarcity and shortage of vaccines all over the world. Quad plans to produce 1 billion vaccines, and India is also playing a major role by supplying vaccines indigenously through its biologically pharma limited. So, through vaccine diplomacy, Quad leaders announced to boost up the manufacturing of and supply of vaccines. And the another major issue is an infrastructure. And the Quad leaders announced a joint strategy on infrastructure partnership. So they are going to map the infrastructural areas. That means through infrastructure mapping, the Quad leaders plans to coordinate and also build up support by providing technology and evaluation tools to the growth of infrastructure sector in the region. Now, the another important area is for the first time the Quad leaders announced a joint statement on technology. That means they want to develop technology on common standards and to promote critical technologies of the future. So, what are these critical technologies? They are 5G, beyond 5G network, cyberspace, and space related matters. So, on all these areas, Quad leaders wanted to have a collaboration and coordination. And this technology aspect has assumed significance recently because it is going to have an impact on the Chinese investments. Because Chinese firms recently have invested in technology sector like telecommunications, in 3G, 4G, and even in 5G networks also. The Chinese companies are investing. Now, with this joint statement on technology, it will curb or control the investments from China. And the joint statement on technology also gave a reference on the usage of technology. That means technology should be developed through a multi stakeholder approach and it should be aligned with the universal values like freedom of expression and privacy, and the technology should not be used for malicious purposes. So, this joint statement on technology implies that China should not use this technology or should not misuse this technology for nefarious purposes. That means for causing harm or damage to the territorial interests of the neighboring countries in the region. So, technology aspect is given utmost importance by the Quad leaders in the recent Quad summit held at Washington. Now, so the Quad summit, why it is significant? Because how it is going to impact Indian foreign policy particularly. All the five major objectives announced recently by the Quad in the Quad summit will be having an impact on the foreign policy of China. How? As discussed, the Chinese telecom firms like Huawei and ZTE earlier invested heavily in Indian telecom sector, and India was a major overseas market for China. Now, with the announcement of Quad, major objective is to curb the growth of China both economically. So, the Chinese investments in this sector will be hampered. That means it will control the investment in telecom sector. Not only in this area, even Indian government announced earlier that it is going to impose strict curbs on Chinese investment in India. Like from 2014 onwards, Chinese firms like Alibaba and Vincent have increased their investment in Indian technology sector and also infrastructure areas. Now, with this recent Quad policy, the investments from the Chinese in Indian telecom firms and infrastructure will be gradually declined. And China also objected to this recent decision taken by Quad. But Quad's ultimate objective is to control the domination of China, not only militarily, not only in the defense sector, but also in the trade related aspects. Because economically, China is becoming superpower and trying to gain control or hold over the natural resources in the region. Now, this is one important aspect or implication of Quad Summit or its objectives. Now, how India is going to benefit from the Quad Summit. So, India, being a member of Quad, is going to be benefited. How it is going to happen? Now, Quad is a first major plurilateral organization which has given equal role and major say for Indian government in international issues like terrorism, climate change, drug trafficking. So all these are issues. All these issues were very important strategically. So India was given a major voice in international forums, not only bilateral and trilateral forums, but also in international summits also, Indian government was given a major voice. Means Indian government participated in the decision making also on issues affecting India and its neighborhood. So now Indian government could also utilize this opportunity to develop habits of cooperation while confronting the 21st challenges in its neighborhood, especially cross-border terrorism and drug trafficking. So in all these issues, India is going to be benefited being a member of Quad. Okay, thank you.